G'day everybody, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so a couple of things to talk to you about today, and the main reason for this video is to go through the results of the big cable shootout that we've been listening to and doing. And I'm actually using a new microphone here now as well, and will be from here on in. So hopefully that's sounding a little bit more natural for you guys. Hopefully anyway. So there's a whole new series of microphones that are happening in the on the channel now, capturing all the audio that you're hearing, and also the stuff that I'm doing to camera. So that's sort of the first announcement, just to let you know that that's what's happening. And then from there, we're going to go through the results of the speaker cable shootout. So I'll get my trusty glasses on here, and we'll go through. So now track one, which was obviously a little while ago now that we played. For all of you guys that have been watching this and interested in the results of what cables you were listening to in what order. So for track one, the first cable you heard was the Inakustik Reference air cable. The second cable on that track was the transparent reference cable, and the third was obviously the Stelth Petite cable. So that was the order for track one. So track two, the next track that I played that you heard 3 times, the order went like this. The first cable you heard was the transparent reference cable. The second cable you heard on that track was the Inakustik Reference air cable. And so the third cable you heard was the Stelth Petite cable. And on track 3, Stelth Petite cable, the Inakustik air reference cable, or reference air cable, and which was the last version of track 3, was the transparent reference cable. Just in case that was a little confusing, and it might well be, what I'll do is I will write the order the cables were in the description below this video. So if that didn't quite make a lot of sense because it was rattling through too quickly for you, you can go into the description of the video and I'll have the order that those cables, you were listening to those cables in there. So after that, we need to talk a little bit about the testing process that I went through, talking about exactly what I was hearing in the room when I was listening to all 3 cables. Now, it needs to be said that all of these 3 cables made an audible difference to me in this room. So I heard distinctive differences when listening to all 3 of those cables. Now, I'm not talking about night and day differences here. These cables, well, the transparent reference cable, if we quote new prices, is about twice the price of the others in this country. The others sort of range around about that, sort of roughly $7,000 for the when they were new, for the Stelth cable and the Inakustik cable, which is a current model, by the way. The transparent reference cable is an older version of that cable. That is my own cable that I own, and that was about $14,000 to $16,000 when it was brand new. So we are not talking about small amounts of money here. These are, relatively pricey up there speaker cables, but I mean, it gets a hell of a lot more ridiculous than that, as we know. But in a system like mine, that's about where I'd like to be. I've had transparent Opus in here. I've listened to it, and honestly, the delta differences between the reference cable of some generations ago and the current Opus cable, it's like minimal. It's not. I can't justify the price. So that's why I haven't gone any further up the run with my transparent cable, and that's why I've also been working with Warwick Robinson for Robinson Cables, and he and I developed a speaker cable, which you are actually currently listening to at the moment, which is coming off the Rotel Mitchie here and driving the little Fisher & Fisher Klein speakers. The speaker cable used there is the cable that I helped Warwick develop. And so the two of us have put this cable together, and it's, I think, of an exceptionally good cable for a fraction of the cost of the cables you've been listening to in this cable shootout. I'll talk further about that cable in another video, I think, just so that when we do the wrap up on the Kleins, so that you know a little bit more about the cable that I've had my fingerprints on, that I've helped Warwick to develop. So if we talk about the cables and how they presented to me in the room, and I'll rank them as far as what I prefer. And I've got a little very interesting story to tell you as well. So let me go back to my notes here. So if let's talk about the Stelth cable for a start. So the Stelth Dream Petite cable and the Inakustik Reference air cable are both owned by a friend of mine who lent me these cables to try in my room. And I thought, well, look, seeing I've got those and my transparent reference cables, let's do a shootout. Let's go through this process together. And you guys have been commenting, and I'm really love the comments I've been hearing, and thought you've been ranking them and giving me your explanations, and I think that's fantastic. That's the engagement I love having with you guys here on the channel. So keep that up. Love hearing from you. It's a joy for me to hear from you guys, and that makes me doing this channel and all the work I put into it rewarding for me, because I get to talk to my community, my people, and we bounce ideas off each other, and we talk about what we like and what we don't like. So there's no right or wrong answers here, as I keep saying with these shootouts. It's just what resonates with you. That's the main thing. So for me, and what resonates with me in this room, with the Stelth cable, I noticed there was good lower octave bass and good mid bass. So I felt like over my transparent reference cable, I noticed a slight improvement in that area with the Stelth cable. But there's a kicker here, so hang around for that. There was, really authentic mid-range with the Stelth cable. I thought that was right up there and really quite nice. But I noticed it was a little dark, and I mean a fraction dark in the upper frequency. It didn't quite have the sparkle in the air that I'm used to hearing with the transparent, and that I was hearing with the Inakustik cable. So they are the sort of main areas and in just basic points in relation to the Stelth cable. So the Inakustik cable for me, it had a really airy top end. There was some tracks I played, a nice trumpet track, I think, which was a George Benson track that I was playing when I played that cable, and I just went, wow! Like it out of the three cables at that point, it was the winner as far as its top end. Its top end was amazing. Really natural and airy, and certainly not abrupt or bright or grainy in any way, shape or form. Really lovely fleshed out mid-range. So the mid-band was very nice with the Inakustik air cable. The build quality of all of these cables is absolutely stunning. All three cables equally, I would give them 9.9 out of 10. They are just all beautifully built. And you would expect that from a cable costing that kind of money. So that said, I couldn't separate them for build quality. They're all really all on par with each other and all exceptionally good. So wonderful fleshed out mid-range. And what have I got here for bass? And I've got it was a little bit light. So not quite as full as the Stelth cable, and not quite as as full as the transparent reference cable. So now let's talk about the transparent reference cable. What I'll do first is I will explain to you a little story around what I did here. So I was told by the owner of these cables when I took a few photos of them in the beginning, and I sent them to him as I was setting up the Inakustik cables. He said, Shane, pick them up and put them off the ground. Don't have them sitting on the ground. So I went, okay, all right, no problems, I will. So I put some cable risers underneath the cables, got them up off the ground. So I had heard them originally on the ground, and there was a significant improvement in the cable when I got it off the ground. I could really hear a difference. And I went, wow. And it's probably the first time that I've actually felt that, because I've never really been a big, believer in lifting cables up off the ground. But in this instance, there was a marked improvement. You could really hear the difference, the synergy that came together, and there was more alive feeling about the presentation, and it was quicker. It just seemed to lift the pace, the prat of the presentation up more when the cables were off the ground. He also said do the same thing with the Stelth. And again, I listened to the Stelth cables on the ground, and then I lifted them off the ground, and I got the same sort of improvement. Not so much in prat, that the improvement was just a cleaner mid-band. The mid-band just seemed a little on the muddy side when they were on the ground, and it was an improvement from that when they were off the ground. So here's the kicker. For all the years that I've owned those transparent reference cables, they've been on the ground. So I thought, I know what they sound like on the ground, and these judgments that I've made on the other two cables are comparing my transparent cables as I've always listened to them on the ground. So what I did was I lifted the cable up off the ground. So I knew what they sounded like on the ground. I thought, well, I've got to compare apples with apples here in this review. So I lifted the cables up off the ground with the cable risers, and I put two Stack Audio Olva EQs underneath the network box on both these cables. Well, I could not believe it. And I just remember sitting there thinking, I've had all this extra wow factor in that cable sitting there getting drained into my carpet and the floor that and had no idea. I had never tried to pick those cables up off the ground until this shootout. And the improvement, so the delta between the first two cables that I talked about on the ground and off the ground was noticeable. The improvement on the transparent reference cable when it was off the ground was night and bloody day. It was quite a large improvement. So the things I'm talking about is the bass, the lower octave bass in that cable went through at probably a 10% improvement over the drive, the punch and drive of that bass in that cable, that lower octave articulation in that cable went through the roof. It was really, really, I was sitting in here with Travis and we just could not believe what we were hearing when we put them on the ground and when we lifted them off. The difference was marked. It was quite considerable. So from there, the mid-range became more unveiled, more so than it even did with the Inakustik cable when it came off the ground. And the top end was beautiful and articulate and airy and light, almost, in fact, probably the best way to describe the upper frequency from on the ground to off the ground was it just quickened up dramatically. So little triangle strikes, cymbal hits. Suddenly you were hearing this pace of high frequency just floating in the air and then falling away. So you got all that hang from what those instruments produce, so that the initial timbre strike of a cymbal and then the splash and ring and resonance of the cymbal all of that became more unveiled and more clean, and you were able to hear more into that. We both sat there and we could not believe our ears. And I felt silly. to be honest. I felt silly that in the 2.5 years that I'd owned those cables, I'd never bothered to pick them up off the ground to see what difference that would make. Because I just simply really wasn't a believer in that. I was open-minded, like I am with everything. I come into everything with an open mind, and I say, prove to me that it's right, or prove to me that it improves it. And if I hear differences that are improvements, I'll say it. I put my hand up and I'll say it. So one thing you will get from me on this channel, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, you'll get my honest, absolute opinion. I'm not going to fluff anything I say to you. If it's what I hear, I'll tell you. If I didn't hear it, I'll tell you that as well. And I heard the biggest difference I'd heard in that transparent reference cable by simply lifting it off the ground. So that leads me then to my rankings. I would have put the transparent reference cable, my cable, probably third in the rankings of these cables before lifting it off the ground. It moved it completely up to being the best cable out of those 3 cables by picking that cable up off the ground. So I would probably suggest that the cable ranking would be, look, there were some slight differences in different areas between the Stelth cable and the Inakustik cable. I can't split them essentially. So third and second for me would be relatively equal, but in different areas. Mid-band is super important, and the Inakustik cable had beautiful fleshed out mid-range. But I love a cable that's got some drive and some bass as well. And I like to have a nice airy top end. Like all audiophiles, we want our cake and we want to eat it. So I think the slight darkness of the Stelth cable for me probably pulled it back into almost in line with the Inakustik cable. But in saying all of this, they are amazing, amazing cables. They are, if you put a standard lamp cord cable in here, and I know a lot of you are going to say it won't make any difference, Shane. It's an avenue in which to pass a relatively small voltage electrical signal to a speaker from an amplifier. I'm here to tell you differently. So some will hate me for that and say it's not right, it's not true, it's all snake oil. I'll tell you a little thing about that. So that, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but I'm going to go in pretty strong here. There are two sorts of people that I find in my 35 years of doing this that are cable deniers. And they fall into these 2 categories. One, when they say cables are snake oil and they don't make any difference, the very next question I ask them is, what is in your system? What sort of hi-fi system do you have? Tell me about your components. And the majority, nearly all of them, are in the mid to low-fi category of components. So what does that tell you? If you don't have the level of resolution in your system, you cannot hear what a cable can do in your system. It's just that simple. That is the majority of the people that say they think cables are snake oil. They're in a low to mid-fi band, and that's fine. We all have our price points and we all have our brackets that we can that level of height in the pool that we can swim in. I understand that completely, get it 100%, and everybody is equal here on this channel. Your opinions all matter to me. I'll listen to every one of you and I will give you my honest answers to your questions or to your statements and my experience. So that is the majority. That's probably 80% of all the people that I've come across in my life that are cable deniers. They simply don't have the hi-fi system to be able to hear the differences a good cable could make, right? And the other 20% are people that have not got the training. They don't have the ears. They cannot listen and pick up well, they can listen, but they have not got the ability, and that is through training and exposure to this stuff. That's not a slight on anybody. It is simply the fact that if you do not have and have not been exposed to what cables can do in a high resolution system, you can't be then trained as to what the differences are. So you would come into my room and we put a cheap cable in here and I would sit you down and I would say, right, can you hear what that's doing? Right? Listen to that. Now let's put a good cable in. We put a good speaker cable in, and then it is in this system, it is so clear to hear the difference that is made by a better quality cable, that it is undeniable. And so that is they are the two groups of people that I find in this hobby that are cable deniers. They just simply either don't have the exposure to be able to appreciate and hear the differences in good cables, or they don't have a system that can flesh out those differences. So I know that'll be controversial, but that's just my experience. So all that being said, I've probably rambled on enough. The best of those three cables, and so it should be at almost twice the price, is the transparent reference speaker cable. The Inakustik cable I loved for its mid-band. Its mid-band was amazing, and its top end was very airy and light, but it just didn't quite have the bass weight that I would want in a cable. The Stelth cable had all the bass weight. It still had lovely, lovely mid-range, but it was slightly dark at the top. The transparent reference cable was just bloody good everywhere, right across the band. A massive step up once it came off the ground. So that's probably it in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed that series. I enjoyed bringing that to you. Please, of course, I'm sure you will leave your comments below in the video. I will leave the results for what cables you were listening to in that description below the video. So if you didn't quite make sense of what I was rambling on about before, you can see them all there in writing. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. Coming up shortly, I've got the Serene record clamp from Stack Audio coming up. I'll be talking to you and giving you my final thoughts about that. I've been testing that in and out and around the other things that I've been doing. And stay tuned, because we've got these crazy little Fisher & Fisher Klein speakers, which you've been listening to lately in the room. I'm going to be talking to you about those, and we're going to go through the process of what I'm hearing in the room with these. So those two final thoughts videos will be coming up in the not too distant future. I know there's a few of you waiting on the Serene clamp review. I'll give you a little teaser. It is going to be a positive review. I am hearing improvements, and I've got some more very interesting news about Stack Audio coming up very soon as well. It will certainly be worth your while having a listen to that video. I will break the new information that I have about Stack Audio and another new component that they are about to release in the final thoughts video for the Serene clamp. I will be getting that component here in the room the moment it is finished and its first runs of production are done. And then we'll be talking about that. You'll see it here on the channel. So hang around, stay tuned. If you love this kind of stuff, you're enjoying what I'm doing, please give the video a thumbs up. It pushes it out there so more people can see what I'm doing. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that. A lot of time and a lot of effort to do these videos for you on the channel. There's a lot of thinking through this. There's a lot of working out what I'm going to do. I love doing it for you, but I want to see my subscription numbers climbing so that I can see that you guys like what I'm doing. If I know you like it, I'll keep doing it. So, and then we'll get some really, really crazy good stuff here on the channel to talk about and to see, and we'll go through the process. You have a one-on-one highway of communication with me here. I try to answer every question I can that you might have to ask me. You get the absolute honest truth from me here on an Aussie Audiophile, and you will continue to get that. But all I'm asking you to do is please subscribe to the channel, and we'll move onward and upward and build this thing into something really, really crazy good. So until we talk again, it's bye for now.